Shadow Magic Sorcerers are amazing, and I'll be telling you why I absolutely love them already, even though it's only been a day since patch 8 released. So their two level 1 subclass features are Strength of the Grave. So instead of going to 0 hit points, you regain 1 instead of becoming down. This is a bit like a get out of jail free card. For those of you who play solo, this is just a good little backup to have. It won't always save you if there's multiple attacks incoming, but it's one extra attack that you will survive. And secondly, superior dark vision, can see in the dark up to 24 meters. This is a really long range, so this is even better for races that don't have dark vision in the first place. I'm using the same character as I had in my previous video. This is because this is one of the few saves that I know works in patch 8 and is in Act 3 and is using the honor mode rule set. Shadow Sorcerers also get access to the two of the new cantrip, one being Bursting Sinew and the other one is Booming Blade. The one downside, I think, unfortunately, we do not get access to Toll the Dead, at least on a pure Shadow Sorcerer, Shadow Magic Sorcerer. This video isn't about this particular build. I really want to focus on the Shadow Magic abilities, so I'm going to zip through the levels and kind of just stop off at the levels which give us something new. But I will say at level 2, if you're going for a pure Shadow Magic Sorcerer, don't worry about Distance Spell, or more like once you get to level 11, respec if you've already picked Distance Spell, because you basically do not need it anymore. Also, as you level up, it's a good idea to take spells that do damage in a few different elements, because that will come into play to help regain some sorcery points. And so at level 6, as you would have seen in the thumbnail, we get the Hound of Ill Omen, a permanent summon, which means it does last through a long rest. Anyway, it costs 3 sorcery points to summon it, and uses a bonus action, so you can use this in the first turn of combat. I'll show you the summon later. We'll go through what it's good for, why it's great, and ways to potentially help it out. And so at level 11, we get this new ability called Shadow Walk. Teleport into the shadows. The next spell you cast this turn will benefit from Distance Spell without costing any sorcery points, and you do not have to have the Distance Spell metamagic already picked. This is a way to get a free Distance Spell. I say free. This is a way to use a bonus action which you can use once every turn to get the Distance Spell metamagic. And I want to point out, this Shadow Walk doesn't use up any sort of resource apart from your bonus action. So outside of combat, you can teleport to your heart's content as long as you're teleporting into an area that is lightly or heavily obscured. So I'm at level 12. I could just pick Globe of Invulnerability and then pick, I don't know, Warcaster would be a good choice, maybe Alert. Maybe Dual Wielder if I want to have 2 different staves. I just want to reiterate what my last video was about. 1 level in Hexblade actually brings in Toll the Dead, which you can twin. It's just a good cantrip to have. I could get Booming Blade, Eldritch Blast if I want force damage. I mean, I've already got Shield, but I mean Hex, which I can use with some of the other cantrips, well, like Eldritch Blast, Scorching Ray. And it brings proficiency in shields and medium armor and martial weapons. Well, it's the medium armor I'd be looking for. But this video is not about multi-classing. It is about being a pure sorcerer, so we're going to pick this up. So first of all, let's have a look at this Hound of Ill Omen. We can see I've got 12 sorcery points here. When I cast it, this goes down to 9. And I want to point out, in case anyone's thinking you can have a whole army of them, I'll try and cast it again. And it gets replaced. And so the reason Nimbus is great, fight a target and possibly, if they fail a Constitution saving throw, place an Omen on them. What's this Omen about? The Omen is chosen at random between Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, Poison, and Thunder, which is why when I was leveling up the Shadow Sorcerer, I tried to pick spells of different damage types, so the Sorcerer can deal with this. When damage of that type is dealt to the target, it doesn't have to be from the Sorcerer, it can be from anyone in your party. The owner of the Hound regains 1 sorcery point. So this is kind of a continuous trickle of sorcery points coming into your sorcerer. Cannot rely on the fact that this is going to work every single round, because the enemies get to make a Constitution saving throw and they might pass. Nimbus's movement is increased by 3 meters when starting a turn in darkness, which can give a pretty decent movement speed. If for some reason you don't want Nimbus to use Ominous Bite, I will show you this in combat. But Nimbus also has Umbral Tangle, so it's an area of effect. You can see this here. And it only affects enemies. They make a strength saving throw. They take 2d6 damage. It's not really for the damage. If they fail the strength saving throw, they are then in Shadow Curse Vines. So they can't move and take 1d4 necrotic damage. Attack rolls against them have advantage, while their attack rolls and saving throws have disadvantage. So you're buffing your allies. You are debuffing the enemy. Nimbus is a good team player. what I suggest you do if you're going to be using a Shadow Sorcerer is you put Shadow Walk into your custom bar number 1. So instead of having to click there and then click over there, you just press the number 1 on your keyboard. Obviously this is only if you're using a keyboard and mouse. If you're using a controller, sorry about that, use whatever shortcut you want. And so yeah, I can bounce around. Obviously I'm not outside or anything. I am just inside the camp here. I'm not using sorcery points, I'm not using spell slots. As long as the area is obscured to some amount, to some degree, I can get there. And you can see all of these lights up. That's because, I'll just do this one more time in turn-based mode. Over to there. I've now got Distant Spell, which affects almost all of the spells I chose. And it will not cost any sorcery points to do that. If I just want to throw out a firebolt somewhere, I don't know, over there, I can, and it didn't use up a sorcery point. If you want Nimbus to last that little bit longer, I would suggest you have a cleric in your party, or someone who can cast Hero's Feast. Increases the maximum hit points, and with a cleric in your party, perhaps maybe a level 3, maybe not even level 2, and an extra 10 hit points. Now Nimbus will last that little bit longer. Unfortunately, Nimbus's initiative bonus isn't very high, so they might go later, which is a bit unfortunate, because really, I'd really want Nimbus to go first, so then we can get the sorcery points back more quickly. But that's not what happened today. That's fine, we'll deal with this. I am using the honor mode rule set with everything else set at tactician, and seemingly this gives Nimbus an extra +2 to hit, which is nice. Nimbus is going to go after going to go after Churk Elvek, but they saved against the ominous bite, and the save DC here is 14, so it's a bit unfortunate. I can teleport for free. I didn't really need to do that. I just like doing it because I can. An extended spell comes all the way out to there. Not that I actually need it. So that was an opportunity attack, and the Omen of Acid appeared. So I need to do some acid damage to Churk Elvek there. I'm going to go after Imprudence. What a name. Unfortunately, they saved against the Ominous Bite. But the point is, I could have had 2 Ominous Bites in that turn. So I need to do some acid damage, which is why I picked Acid Splash. Let's try this out. And now I've got 7 sorcery points. So in theory, to make Nimbus pay themselves back, you need to get that 3 times at a minimum. Hopefully more than that, so you can start making profit and gains from it, instead of having it just pay for itself. I've had to go and reload this fight, because there is something that Nimbus can do, which I didn't manage to see happen, because I had everyone else confused. Yeah, that's right. So when Nimbus takes an attack, takes some damage, although he took 0 damage here because of the projected ward, he gets a reaction called Splinter Shadow. So when you are attacked by a melee, it must be a melee attack, and it must not be radiant damage. You can splinter off a piece of yourself. Well, let's just Splinter Shadow, shall we? The Splintered Shadow Hound, Mini Nimbus, doesn't have any of the buffs that Nimbus had, so with the reload, I didn't have Hero's Feast, but I do have Aid there, and this Hound doesn't have Aid on them. And also, I didn't get to show you Umbral Tangle. I've made everyone come together. Thank you, Black Hole. The new Hound, the Splintered Hound, is not under your control. Let's just let them have a go. I'm not touching anything. It's just doing it by itself. And basically, it will always use that same sort of entangled attack there. So instead of using the Ominous Bite there, because everyone was grouped together from Black Hole, I decided it was better to use an Area of Effect spell, dealing a little bit of damage. You can see the necrotic damage isn't particularly high. 3, 8, 5, 3, 10. When you add that all together for a summon, it's not too bad. And so now we'll try and get the... There we are, an Omen of Cold. We'll do our best to do some cold damage. Anyway, that's enough of the Hound of Ill Omen, enough of Nimbus, I'm sad to say. And there's one last thing I want to show you about the Shadow Step. So the last thing I want to show you is that you can be invisible and use Shadow Walk. I use Greater Invisibility. I promise you this also does work with just the usual invisibility. And we can teleport around the place as long as we are somewhere that's lightly or heavily obscured. So, you know, out in the open here maybe doesn't work out so well. So I can teleport around the place. I've only got 4 turns left, I have to be careful. But you can use your Shadow Sorcerer to infiltrate places. And if everyone's in combat, and you're hidden as well, this works out particularly well. So greater invisibility is about to run out. And if I'm hidden, I can teleport and stay hidden. It's like a stealthy spell, which I absolutely love. It's better than the Shadow Monk's Shadow Step, I think it's called, because they have to start and end somewhere that's obscured. But Shadow Sorcerers can just teleport to somewhere that's obscured. You don't have to start somewhere that's lightly or heavily obscured. So you let me know your thoughts on the Shadow Sorcerer. I really, really like it. It's probably my favourite flavour of Sorcerer now. Some of that is because it's new, but some of it is because of the extra utility. It's very unique, and I absolutely adore it. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one.